Hey guys, Drifter here. I get the question all the time, why do you play so much Overwatch? And the short answer is that I really enjoy the game, I think it's good, and it's a very different kind of game. And the follow-up question is almost immediately, what makes Overwatch so different? Class-based shooters have been around forever. The game obviously draws a lot of inspiration for Team Fortress 2, if it's not a TF2 ripoff, Destiny, Battlefield 1, Call of Duty now with the rigs, and a ton of other FPS games are class-based, so why bother with cartoony, goofy, silly Overwatch? But I do think Overwatch is a fantastic game, and that's what I want to talk about today, but I mostly want to focus on what makes Overwatch so different. And I think the short answer is that the Overwatch team chose a different route than almost every modern game at every single step of the way of development in terms of marketing, community creation, and actually gameplay and content strategy. I'm going to talk about the marketing and community building aspect first because I find it to be the most unique and most different, but there will be quite a bit of gameplay discussion later on as well. And just so you know, this isn't stuff I'm making up or kind of pulling out of my ass here. All of it comes from conversations that I've had with the Overwatch team, not just one person, but various people, and I actually had to get clearance to even talk about some of these things. So first up, if you've played Overwatch, you might have noticed that there are a lot of women playing Overwatch on both PC and console. The amount of female gamers playing this game is higher than any game that I have ever seen in my entire life. Especially for such a twitchy shooter game. You would expect that the games that women play are MOBAs or strategy games or relatively slow-paced ones, because we like to stereotype female gamers as being not into shooters or not having as good a reaction or spatial understanding as men. But there are almost as many women playing Overwatch as there are men, or at least almost as many women on microphones in that case. Literally about 50% of the gameplay in this video, the people on mic are women, 2 or 3 women sometimes playing in big groups. And I think that's a good thing. Now you're gonna say, oh Drifter, you're a creeper, you just like to talk to babes on the internet, you just like to creep and ask for DMs or whatever. And no, that's not true. It's just a change of pace from normal, from Jeff the dude bro that's high, from angry redneck, and from 13-year-old that always talks on Xbox Live. And just the frequency of women is astonishing, but this wasn't an unintentional thing. There weren't accidentally a lot of women on Overwatch. The Overwatch team and Blizzard in general targeted female players from day one with the following strategy. There are obviously lots of female characters in the game. However, there are several females in each character class, from DPS to defense to tank to healer to whatever it is that you're looking for, and the women vary wildly in nationality, ethnicity, body size, personality. If you're a female gamer, you can find a girl that fits you, and it makes it easier to identify with the character and play as that character. Fun story about Mei, who I actually am not playing in this video. She's the chubby Chinese girl that runs around and freezes people, literally one of the most annoying and powerful characters in the game. When Blizzard first sent a build of the game to the Chinese censorship board, which name I forget, to kind of certify that it's good to go, that it doesn't insult China, that everything's good to go culturally because they have their own rules, they initially rejected the game and sent the feedback to Blizzard saying that they were very upset that Mei was fat or that Mei was chubby, and that they wanted Blizzard to redesign Mei very specifically to be like Widowmaker and have a big round ass. They wanted the Chinese girl to be attractive, and they actually considered it insulting that the Chinese girl was not an attractive character. It was like, oh, what, you think Chinese girls are all fat and ugly? And Blizzard, God bless them, to their infinite credit, stood up to the Chinese censorship board and said, no, this is the game we're making. These are the reasons. Mei is a larger than average girl, and we want her in the game for these reasons. And they had a long sit down with the Chinese censorship board. They actually acquiesced and agreed and allowed it to go forward, which is mind-blowing. It just, I can't even believe that they managed to do that. But on top of all that, each one of the female characters has a complex backstory, motivations, and this is important not for many male characters or in a lot of games where it's just dude bros blowing each other up or cutting them up with chainsaws like Gears of War, but women really get into this sort of thing. They really get into the characters and the backstory, and it's designed to appeal to the type of woman that watches League of Legends and reads the lore and the stories, but doesn't necessarily play the game. All of these very conscious design choices ended up with probably about a 70-30 player base between male and female, which is hardly 50-50, you know, but it's still a radical departure from any other game. But that wasn't the only unique community building choice that Blizzard made. The other one was that they wanted to pull in non-traditional gamers. These are people that, demographically speaking, align very closely to the gaming community, but maybe don't play hardly any games or haven't played into adulthood, we'll say. So the first choice they made was that the private beta really was invite only. It really was private and exclusive, and not just exclusive for every single YouTuber and Twitch streamer. There are a lot of games that come out, matter of fact, most of them that go into a private beta or an exclusive testing phase or whatever they want to call it. And if you send a business email to the company, be like, yo, my name is Drifter, I got 1 million subs, can I play your game? Be like, bam, here's the code and here's 5 codes for your friends. Or be like, hey, you know, my name is so-and-so and I have a Twitch audience for so many people, can I get a code? You get a code, you get a code, you get a code. And it's not exclusive when every single person on Twitch gets a code. Overwatch specifically chose to exclude some extremely popular YouTubers and streamers from getting a beta invite. They wanted to make it exclusive, and the point being made was they worked very hard to make sure that some of these people could not play the game regardless of how popular they were, and in some cases the more popular were, the harder it was for them to get the game. And instead, a large section of beta codes and invites were sent out to DeviantArt fan pages that supported other Blizzard games or Overwatch, or just that some that the staff were fans of, Tumblr accounts that wrote fan fiction of all things, that did art, that did cosplay, that did commentary on the characters or whatever, cosplayers who are often in the anime scene, or, you know, they play some games but not all games, especially not really competitive ones. That's not what they're known for. And even some Instagram personalities. These people that are close to the gaming community but not in it, a lot of women generally speaking. And they sent it to this community. So there were like random cosplayers with almost no followers on Twitch that had almost exclusively done like sewing or stitching streams that somehow got an exclusive beta invite to play Overwatch, and they were streaming it, and it was really, really rare. It made it a true exclusive beta. There was a lot of hype built around it, and it actually helped smaller channels grow. There were some really small channels that were lucky enough to get in that appealed to a slightly different community. They were able to grow really well with Overwatch, and it tied them into the game, and it generally encouraged them to do more Overwatch-related things, like, say, cosplay. Blizzard has strongly encouraged cosplay since day one. Every single event that I've went to where there was an Overwatch thing, they worked very hard to make the booths inclusive, to make sure that it was easy to get pictures, to make sure the cosplayers could talk to staff, that they were treated nicely, that they got water, drinks, any sort of help, whatever it is that they needed. Invites to the private Blizzard party. There were people, so the private gaming parties at events, it's like the who's who of Twitch and YouTube, and like this community manager and this executive and, you know, the pro players or whatever. If you go to the Blizzard party, you'll actually see a lot of people there that just do cosplay. You'll see people invited to the party that have no connections to anything but just made a very nice costume, and Blizzard wanted them to show up. It makes it very good for social media and very fun at events. So that was a lot of interesting community building choices that got a very diverse group of players in the game, and you're probably sitting there thinking, okay, great, I get to go shit on some Tumblr arenas and like some bad girls that don't play games. The reality is not true. Most of these people actually adapted quite well, and they play much better than you would think. There were some other choices, kind of like characters are extremely diverse in this game. They're diverse in terms of race, sex, gender, orientation, nationality. One of the nationality, I think, was a big one. There's all sorts of regions all over the world, from Africa to various places in Europe to China, Japan, several in America, all represented here in Overwatch. So no matter where it is that you live as a gamer, it is very likely that you have been to or live nearby some of these locations, which is kind of fun. And they did different voice acting for each region too. Playing Overwatch in Germany at Gamescom was one of the most fun things I've done in a long time, because I got to listen to the characters with their natural German voice actors. There's 2 or 3 German characters in the game. They all speak German, but there's also like a cowboy, like an American cowboy. So I got to hear German spoken with a Southern American accent, which was very strange, and it's regionalized for most languages and regions all over the world instead of just adding subtitles, which is something that not a lot of game companies do. And again, this makes it easier for the players overseas to identify with these characters. Now that we've talked forever about community building and all this sort of nonsense, let's actually talk about the gameplay. Gameplay-wise, it borrows a lot from Team Fortress 2 and surprisingly from League of Legends. A lot of people say the game's a TF2 knockoff. I strongly disagree. I think it's got a lot more in common with League, especially with the character abilities. But it's a shooter where when you say, oh, we've got a heavy class and a light class and a medium class, that really means heavy, medium, and light. Like every game says that, and it'll be like, well, the light class has 80 health, the medium has 100, and the heavy class has 125. No, this game's like 600, 250, and 150, like soaking up tons of damage versus getting deleted instantly. The characters vary wildly in the amounts of damage they can do, from some characters that almost can't hurt you at all to some characters that can delete you instantly, and some don't have much health or heal or deal damage, but they disrupt only, which is very fun. The game completely requires cooperation to win. Solo carrying won't work very well outside of low elo. Of course it happens sometimes, but generally speaking, coordinating your ultimates and your abilities is extremely important, and it plays something like a first-person MOBA, which is shocking to me. It really reminds me more of a MOBA than anything, but condensed into first-person format. And of note, the game also intentionally included characters that other gamers would be familiar with, even if they'd never played a shooter or never played Overwatch, with the idea being that, okay, this game is alien and unfamiliar and I don't get the rules and I don't like this, but hey, this one character is really familiar with what I've done in some other game, so I can just kind of, get my feet wet with that. For example, Soldier 76 is basically Mr. Call of Duty. As a matter of fact, they told me he was literally designed to appeal to Call of Duty players as one of their first characters. Farah, who flies around on a jetpack and shoots rockets, is very similar to playing Tribes or Quake. Torbjorn reminds me a lot of the engineer from Team Fortress 2 with all the turrets and building and the hammer and shotgun and whatnot. Diva is somewhat similar to playing a mech game. Controls are different, but it has a similar feel. Reinhardt was designed to be similar to a tank from World of Warcraft, which is another Blizzard game. Lucio plays a lot like Jet Set Radio or some of the future CODs with wall running. And Mei, the ice girl that we talked about before, reminds me a lot of a League of Legends character. Probably a mix of Anivia and Lissandra, maybe a hybrid between those two, because she shares a lot of the movesets. And all of these make it very easy and familiar for you to find a character, experiment, get comfortable with the game, and branch out, which was something very clever. A lot of other game companies focus very hard on making their class-based shooter, their FPS MOBA, being the most unique, the most off-the-wall, special snowflake thing ever, instead of just sticking to what's playable. Moving on, the game has some other things going on that other games do not. It had a smooth launch on all three platforms, PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. Graphics were roughly the same across all three, all had 60 FPS, the controls were good, and there were relatively few bugs across them, except we did have some input delay when the consoles launched, but I think that was kind of random. That was very hit or miss. PC and console versions all have a ton of quality of life options. PC launched with full support, tons of options, graphics cards, change your cursor, change your crosshairs, change mouse acceleration, frame lock, windowed mode, all this sort of stuff. Console had all the nice things. It had colorblind mode, it had custom key rebinds, sensitivity scalers, all sorts of nice things, support like for different triggers and controllers and whatnot. And finally, all of the versions got constant bug fixes and updates. Not that the game is flawless or devoid of bugs or anything, but it's been pretty smooth and well updated overall. Networking wise, the game runs on 100% dedicated servers for all matches. They're 60 hertz too, and this makes it unique in that they were originally 30 hertz servers or 30 tick rate, and the community complained about it until Blizzard says, okay, let's do an experiment. Here's your 60 hertz servers. Do you like that better? It was a resounding yes, so they're like, okay, we'll leave the servers at 60 hertz. You win, community, you've got it. For me, as a gamer who spends a lot of money on these sort of things, the content model is nothing short of fantastic. All the games feel like they're price gouging me now for DLC, or for pre-order this, or for get these loot boxes to get the good guns or whatever. But Overwatch decided to do a simple content model that's $40 for the full game. You get the full game and everything for $40. I will admit it's $60 on consoles, because consoles have sort of fixed pricing, which is different. But they decided, okay, well, if console players have to pay $60, let's give them some free skins, some free icons, and some other nice things along with it. So once you buy the full game, either 40 on PC or 60 on console or whatever, all of your heroes are unlocked from the start. Every map is unlocked from the start. Every weapon, every ability, everything is good to go. Full unlock, nothing. You don't even have to grind or level up or experience anything. You can do literally everything from the very first second, which is good. Any new heroes that come to the game are unlocked immediately. All the new maps are free. All the modes are free. All the extra content. They added a horde mode that was free at one point. All of this is free, or considered with your $40 purchase. You never have to pay anything else. And yes, there are supply drops in the game, the loot boxes, kind of like the Call of Duty ones, except they're 100% cosmetic. Nothing about them. You never get a new character, you never get a better gun, you never get a boost, you never get anything that doesn't just change the way that you look, or your spray on the wall, or like an emote or voice line or something like that. Overall, they're quite well done too. The skins are top-notch quality. I actually spend money on these and not on the Call of Duty ones. And I think it's a very, very good content model that other game companies could learn from. You spend your money, you get the game, you get the support, and if the game needs more money, they just throw a bunch of good cosmetics at you. Not even crappy cosmetics, but good ones. I will admit the competitive play has been somewhat rough. The first season or two was pretty messy, but Blizzard worked really hard and they've eventually smoothed it out. We're moving into Season 4 of competitive now, and it works great. There's unique rewards for ranking up in competitive. You get icons, banners. Most notably, you get gold weapons if you've played enough competitive. There's no other way to get gold weapons at all. You just have to be good at competitive to do that. And the pro scene is growing really fast too. They're kind of taking a different approach to that, but it's in flux, so I'm not going to talk about it. Overall, Overwatch has made different decisions both in community building, both in who they target, how the game plays, and just about everything from the ground up. And I think they've made nothing short of a fantastic game. So that's the answer as to why I play so much Overwatch. That's why you see it on the channel so much. That's why I laugh so much when I play it. I really enjoy the game, and I think it's truly gonna have legs. It's obviously, a lot of people said this game gonna be dead in 2 weeks, and it's about 8 or 9 months later. It's still doing great. I think this game is still gonna be bumping 2 or 3 years from now. And guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something new. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.